Now, let me ask you this. Do you think we're living in a so-called elite dictatorship? That is how one journalist has summarised the UK. I have to say, this is an article that was in the Telegraph. It's actually quite fascinating. It incorporates many different points, David Curtin. But he says things like, he talks about the cartel of Westminster. He says that the three main parties, basically, there's not a drop between them on the key issues. He talks about the fact that public opinion is just completely ignored, basically, on many things, that if there were a referendum to be called on them, that actually those policies would be chucked out of the window if the outcome was to be respected. And he goes on to say that he thinks that perhaps there would be some form of uprising on its way in this country. What says you? Yeah,
well, there needs to be some change. I don't want there to be a violent uprising, but I want there to be a change at the ballot box, which is why I started the Heritage Party, of course, because what I think is that there is a uni-party. They, like you said, they have coalesced in terms of the policy positions that they have, and they are against what the majority of the people want. They are climate alarmists. We talked about net zero earlier. They're pushing that. They want to get rid of cars and petrol and diesel cars. They are pushing the trans agenda. We have this relationship and sex education in school and many, many other things. We have mass immigration, and whatever Rishi Sunak is saying about it and whatever bills he's putting through Parliament, it goes on and on and on. And people don't want these kind of things. And on any of those issues, like you say, if there was a referendum, people would vote against that. We would vote to control our borders. We would vote to protect children from sexualisation in schools. We would vote to keep our cars and things like this. We would vote to have cheap energy. We would probably vote not to go to war in Ukraine and escalate that as well. That's another issue. So I think that there's all of these things that all the parties have coalesced on, and we need a change. I mean, I was at the forefront of the freedom movement, if you like, during the lockdown. I opposed lockdowns. I opposed the no jab, no job regulations that they brought in. And I think at that point, there was a bit of an uprising and a pushback, and then the lockdowns were lifted and the no jab, no job regulations were lifted as well. There needs to be something else like that.
I hope you don't take credit for that, because I like to take credit for the no jab thing myself. We did an outdate the mandate campaign on this programme. I remember it well, actually. Anyway, what do you make to all this topic?
No, I mean, I'm in some agreement with this article. I think for different reasons, though. I think there are a lot of people who are ignored in society at the moment, and I think that's because of our two-party system, essentially. So because you've got two parties, you've got first past the post, that means that both parties are appealing to the same group of swing voters who they think will decide the next election. And that means that everyone else gets ignored. Now, one way to resolve that is to have endless referendums on every topic under the sun. The other way is to have proportional representation. So you have a system whereby you can have smaller parties who can gain 10% of the vote and then have 10% of the MPs. Now, what would that mean? That would mean that people like me who want stronger environmental policies, I could vote for the Greens. Then in Parliament, they can negotiate with the other parties to get that through. People like you can vote for probably a more right-wing party or your own party, I suppose.
Yeah, yes.
And you can have some people in Parliament who want the sort of socially conservative policies that you want, and then they can all negotiate it and come out with some kind of compromise. I think the referendum idea is a bit
you say that as though it's like you say, oh yeah, they'll all negotiate it and reach some kind of compromise, as though it's like a really simple thing. At this moment in time, bearing in mind the Tories have got an 80-seat majority, it takes them a lot of time and effort to try and pass things. So if you've got this kind of hung Parliament with all of these fragmented groups representing completely polar opposite opinions, trying to quote you, negotiate, that is going to be quite a complex, long-winded, some would say, worse situation than one we've got now.
Well, in a way, there's actually lots of benefits to that. So one of the reasons one of the theories behind why sort of Germany and France have stronger levels of growth than we do is because they have more policy continuity. What we have in this country is you've got one majority to another majority. As soon as the Tories get into power, they want to change everything. As soon as Labour get into power, they want to change everything. Very difficult for businesses to plan ahead. What you get in somewhere like Germany, for example, is policy does change more slowly, but it tends to change in a more sort of rational way, and you end up with a more stable economy and it's more productive.
What I find fascinating as well is voting habits. I think often people just almost vote the same way that they've always done because their granddad did, their grandma did, the mum did, the dad did, they did. And it's almost like a habit as opposed to perhaps sometimes a considered choice based on the detail of what people are saying. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Get in touch and tell me your thoughts. And would you support proportional representation? Is that the answer to all the woes of this country, or would it make things worse? And